Paul Roos here from Performance by Design, and welcome to the Culture Couch. Now, my partner in crime, Gerard Murphy's been whinging for about a month now. He's not getting enough airtime. So I'm going to hand it straight over to Murph. Murph, it's your big moment to take control of the hosting. Don't blow it. Go.
Thanks, Paul. Welcome. I'd like to introduce everybody to Paul Roos, my co-host on the Culture Couch. And with us today, we've got Bruce McFarlane and Trevor Gordijn. Now, Bruce, you and I have known each other for 15 years. It's been a very memorable journey. Bruce started with a large firm.
Large firm, yep. National law firm.
Yep, and then moved to BlueRock.
Joined BlueRock about 3 years ago, yeah.
Great. And you are now the CEO of BlueRock? Or?
I'm the managing director of BlueRock Law at the moment,
yep.
But it's from the 1st of July of the whole group.
Fantastic. And beside him, we've got Trevor Gordijn.
Yes.
Welcome, Trevor.
Thanks, Jez. How did I find myself on the couch here today?
I'm not sure.
You were just walking past.
No, I know. I've landed myself in a terrific spot. But no, seriously, I'm here. My role at BlueRock is I'm the managing director of the accounting firm. I've been here for 2 years now.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I worked at another mid-tier accounting firm, born and bred in the country in sales. So spent the first part of my career here in the city until the 30s, and then my wife and I, we had family, and I moved back to Sale for 14 years, and then decided to take on the next challenge, which was luckily for me here at BlueRock. So joined in July 18 and have been working with Bruce and the team for we're coming up 2 years now, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yep.
And Brucey, as we all know, we've been working with BlueRock for about 3 years. Bruce introduced us. And so talk to us a little bit about the culture of BlueRock, Bruce, and we can start to add things as we go.
Yeah, so BlueRock, we're an entrepreneurial advisory firm. So what does that mean? So we've got a professional services business where we practice across accounting, which is the main part of the business and the start. So we started about 12 years ago as just an accounting firm. And in more recently, we've added law, wealth, finance, digital, and I think we've got 9 different divisions across a whole range of services. The culture of the business, so it's very entrepreneurial. We don't take ourselves too seriously. We like to have a bit of fun. We're not like most of the other professional service firms in the market. We like to work very closely with our clients. We talk a lot about community, and the community at BlueRock is internally and externally. And what we've also got an investment part of our business through a company called Everything is Awesome, which we co-own and co-operate businesses out of our offices here at 414 Collins Street. Yep. So that community, sense of community, sense of fun, sense of the entrepreneurial spirit is a big part of our culture. But probably the most important part is the care. We generally care about our people and our clients. And so I think that one of the things that Pete Layla, who's the founder of BlueRock, says is that, if you do the things you love with people you care about, great things will happen.
Fantastic. That is really good. And I think when we start working with companies, we often say the best way to find out about the culture of an organisation is actually to ask the newest person. And I was running a session with the directors of the business, Ruzi, and I said, okay, who's the newest person? Can you stand up and tell me about the culture? And at that time, it happened to be Trevor.
Yeah,
and
it was.
He stood up and without a doubt, he gave the best description of the culture of an organisation from a new person I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us about that?
You remember that?
I got to remember. No, I do remember it because it kind of came back to the reason I came here. So when you're packing up your wife and kids from the city, you've lived there for 14 years, and you're making a move back to Melbourne, you really want to be quite clear about where you're going, and you want to have done that reflection as a leader and as a family man on where you wanted to be. So I wanted to come to a place that was, really highly creative, created a lot of opportunities, that was really connected, that was interested in developing people, but also at its heart wanted to deliver results. So I'd been here about a month or two when you first asked me that question, and I'd seen a lot of that stuff. So I was able to say pretty confidently that that's what I'd found. But I also, I suppose I gave some feedback in a way that I'd noticed that people weren't actually having direct conversations, and there was a lot of what I'd call corridor chat about who we were and what we were going. And I felt that was still there was still an element of unity coming together that we needed to do, and I think that's the journey that we've been on to for the last 12 or 18 months with the support of yourself and Emil and the Performance by Design crew.
Yeah, it was amazing because it was overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah.
But there was a couple of like nice elements of truth in your description that made the directors of the business all sit up and go, "Oh wow, we perhaps better start to address that."
Yeah.
And it certainly opened up the conversation, Bruce. You were in that room for later in the day where we started to discuss some of the deeper ways that we can improve the business from a cultural perspective.
I think for me it really came from the journey. If you think about where the business started in 2008 with 8 people, and it rolled forward almost 12 years and was 150 people, and it was an accounting firm, and now it was 11 divisions. It's only natural over time that you build up these centres of excellence in a business, and now is our time to actually start to come together as a collective group and operate still with an entrepreneurial spirit, but be more together and more unified in the way we tackle the future.
So in that meeting, Bruce, for you, what did that mean to you when you heard that? Because it's a really interesting point. The first thing that jumps off the page to me, and I know Murph's been working with you a while in our company of more recent times, but fun is always an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you look at fun as part of what you are as a corporation, it's good, but it's always about how much fun, and it doesn't matter whether it's passion or honesty or whatever the value is. Was that something that jumped off the page to you? Are we having too much fun, or was that what were your immediate thoughts?
No, that's right.
You remember the session, mate, the feedback?
Yeah, I remember the session as well, and so that's right. Coming from a more corporate environment to an environment that's a lot of fun, it's trying to find that right balance between accountability and honesty. Like in most large law firms and accounting firms where we've come from, you're not having those honest conversations either. It's very different, and so BlueRock's also very different, having lots of different types of businesses, lawyers and accountants, data scientists, digital agency, all these different people all together who are all come from very different environments. But yeah, so what Trevor said was spot on, and we had a really good session afterwards, and we've been working together with Murph in both the law and accounting firm to address that. But yeah, you need to find the balance. We need to care for each other. We need to support each other. And particularly in this current environment, like it's mental health, physical health, all of those things. We do so much for our people, and that's really important to us. You need to be able to have difficult conversations with people as well. And so that's when to do that, in what environment, how to do that, without making a joke about things all of the time. So,
well, I think sometimes fun is a way to actually avoid having a hard conversation.
Yeah.
And we certainly got the sense that there was certain situations that we might be doing that as a group in that session that day. And I do remember Jared calling us out a little bit, part of the way through the session and going, actually, you guys finished joking around here, and are we here to actually have a conversation about who we are and what we want to do, or do you just want to crack jokes
and it's
all day? And it hit us like pretty directly
so normal.
in the day.
It
in the
is
face.
absolutely so normal for most businesses, and particularly as Australians. I think we pride ourselves on banter and sarcasm and having a bit of a joke here and there. And I think if we start having honest conversations as humour, it undermines everything we're doing. And you would have come across it, Roosie, heaps in sport, I'm sure.
Oh, I mean, one of the biggest transitions in football has been just that. I mean, anyone that's been inside a footy club, and I started in the early 80s. I mean, I remember Saturday night we'd finish a game and I'd go home and I'd stand there for an hour worrying about what I had to wear, because I knew as soon as I walked into the nightclub, one of the players would go, "Oh, where'd you get those shoes from? How can you wear that shirt?" or whatever. So it's interesting. The whole notion around Australia is a lot around, Paul Hogan as, Crocodile Dundee and all that sort of stuff. So it is normal, but confronting in those meetings, isn't it? When you realise that this is the way we communicate, and then I think the second thing is we all realise, actually, that's not right. We shouldn't be doing that.
It's interesting because using the footy analogy, back in the 80s, if you were going to get hard feedback, it'd be a coach yelling at you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Screaming at you. So it's very clear when you're getting a message. That's changed in footy as well. And it's changed and that's the same as me growing up as a young lawyer. If the partners didn't like your work, they ripped it up and they threw it on the ground and they said, this is a piece of shit. You know, go and do it again. But now the way you interact is different in a corporate and in a footy sense.
And I think that's the strength, and you guys have seen it with Murph, it's the strength of what we try and create, because it's no longer top down. No. And that's the biggest transformation I've seen in football, and you're right, from a corporate point of view. When I arrived at Fitzroy, with all due respect to Wolsey, he was a school teacher. You know, and the only time you really spoke to him is when he yelled at you, or he told you were in the team, or he told you were dropped. But that's what was sort of accepted. It wasn't like it was unnatural, and that was the same in the corporate world. But what we're trying to promote, and clearly through your culture and bringing Murph in, is, hang on, we're serious about high performance. And I think that's where football has led the way, Murph, hasn't it? I mean, you worked at Geelong, for those that don't know, worked at Geelong 7, 8, whatever it was. But football needs to make immediate decisions, because you don't last very long in a football club as a coach if you're not successful. So by the very nature of the scrutiny, you have to make really quick changes. And I think we made those changes. Well, 03 was Sydney, and we did a similar session you guys did with Murph around what do we stand for, you know, as an organisation. But it's really powerful, isn't it, when you get it right? Well,
it is, because what happens off the back of that is you actually start to form really strong bonds and relationships with people, and you actually start to be able to have real, open, honest conversations. And feedback's two ways, and you know, you've got the choice to listen or not listen, but it's about actually having a conversation the right way, and talking to each other. And I think in our environment, what we're trying to be is more empathetic, more understanding leaders, and what we've learned is our people want that, and that allows them to actually be more empowered and take charge and grow and take responsibility, be daring, make decisions, because that's the way an organisation like BlueRock grows. It's off the back of people taking risks, being daring, making decisions, taking responsibility within an overall culture of, you know, behaviours and a framework around that.
But I think also, and Murph, you jump in too, and I think also, Bruce, part of the problem is when we read about a sporting club, we only read about the discipline part. We only read about the player that gets suspended for 6 weeks or whatever. To your point, we never read about the fact that he's wrapped his arms around someone and we've said, well, you've done something wrong, but we're now going to support you. We're going to show you the way to do things right. And I think that's why potentially in a corporate world, people are scared to give feedback, because they're worried that they're not going to get the support, or they're going to be seen as troublemakers or what have you.
I think it's about improvement. Sorry, go.
Well, I was going to say, like, it's in corporate world, you don't want to get something wrong. As a lawyer, you don't want to get it wrong. You don't, you know, as an accountant, you don't want to get it wrong. So there's that fear all of the time. You know, it's the same as you don't want to miss the goal when you're kicking for goal. It's the same thing, but you get caught up in the fear. But being more daring and more entrepreneurial, it's like we back our staff to have a crack, to make mistakes and to do things. We don't get the law wrong, but in terms of how they approach it, using technology, how they interact with their clients. It's just a very different way to approach it.
But I'm sure also if they do make a mistake, it's no longer kicking the shit out of them.
No, not
it's
at all.
It's actually wrapping your arms around them. So
I think it's the learning opportunity out of that is what you want, and then where's the improvement going to come from, and what are you going to do differently next time?
But that's the paradox. We talk about this all the time. The paradox of high performance is we care so much about each other. We are going to have honest conversations. And sometimes they're going to hurt, but I'm only having that conversation with you to make you better because I care about you. And so it's sort of like this, you said before, accountability versus fun. Like the whole leadership thing is such hard work because you have to find the balance.
That's right, and we're coming from a position that we were, you know, the 4th best place to work in Australia. We're the 7th best place to work in Australia, the 6th best, then the 4th best. We've got a great culture, that the people love working for us. We love our staff. We do care for them and we support them. We just wanted to get better. And so we wanted to take it to the next level. And as we grow, it's a lot easier when Pete started the business and there's 8 people to put your arms around them all of the time. When there's 150 people, it's a bit trickier. And so you need to make sure you've got the systems in place,
Yeah.
and it's from top to the bottom.
Yeah, but creating safety for people to be able to take risks and to be daring
Yeah.
that's the difficult piece, isn't it? Because as soon as they fail because they've taken a risk,
It's what happens next that
you
matters.
You can't then jump in and go, hang on,
No.
just say kick the shit out of them. You have to stop and go, hang on, okay, let's calm down. This is an opportunity for learning and growth.
And I think that's part of your role as a leader is to let people go and, trust and empower them, get out of the way, but almost like that shepherd bit, watch that they don't make the big mistake, guide them towards the next thing, but let them have the experience along the way. It's a much slower process than telling somebody exactly what they've got to do
100%.
and telling them exactly where they went wrong. The trick is always to ask them what they think about that, and then the light bulb moment comes from that.
I also think there's this misconception about empowerment.
Yeah.
It's just letting people do whatever they want to do.
No.
I mean, that's not empowerment. I used to say that jokingly to the Sydney players that I didn't let the lunatics run the asylum. It's not about that. It's about conversations. It's about discussions. And then it's about, well, you go away and have a go at it and then hopefully come back and talk to me. So it's really more of a collaboration than absolutely letting them do everything they want to do.
I think that's right. And, through this last, 3 months, this is when we've sort of seen, has that culture stood up or has that worked, and have those relationships held strong and steady through a difficult time? Because you and I have talked and we've had feedback around, well, how we'll come out of this time is a reflection of the relationships that we built, not in the week before we left the office of COVID-19, the months and the years that have been built into that culture previously. So
take us through that, because that's another massive change in footy, the relationship piece. Huge.
Yeah.
Like we touched on it. Relationships, I had great relationships with my teammates and still do with Fitzroy, but it wasn't a really close relationship with your coach. Again, it was more around time.
Yeah.
But this notion of leadership is really about relationship building now, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that trust is key to it all. So, trusting both ways, so you trusting, we've got a really young team here. So we're the old blokes of the business, but the average...
Come on, mate.
I was going to say, you've been old bloke in any business.
Come on. Well, you forgot we've known each other since more than 15 years. Who's the one going a bit sad? Really young business, but the trust is important, and support. So the two things that you need to get right as as a leader, but also for your team as well. So
okay, I've got a question for you then. What's trust? Because people will chuck trust out there. For you, what does trust look like?
Question. What does trust look like? So, letting people, having someone's back, and letting them go and do something and make their own mistakes, but supporting them if they fail.
For me, it's also about having a high degree of confidence to know how somebody will behave under pressure and in certain environments. And so that if I trust you, Ruzi, I pretty much know the way you're going to behave, no matter what, rain, hail or shine. I know what to expect from you, and that's a relationship that we've built up over time through togetherness or through conversation. So
reliable then.
Yeah, I think it's that reliability.
Yeah, it's a theme that's coming out. Obviously, we're doing lots of interviews on the couch.
Yeah.
And it's a theme that's coming out over and over and over again about good leaders.
Yeah.
Consistency.
Yeah.
So being consistent. So you know what you're going to get. Rain, hail or shine, to use your term.
Yeah.
And so people can depend on your reliability.
They can count on you. Yeah, that's right.
Well, you've got lots of kids like I do. It's exactly the same in parenting. You've got your kid. You need, when you show up for your kids, you need to be consistent in how you.
Well, Ruzi's big on this. Ruzi's massive on the person you are at work should be the person you are at home.
Yeah. I think it's about your personal values and behaviours, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I always talk about this notion of work-life balance. There's no such thing as work-life balance. It's just life.
It's a continuum, isn't it?
Life.
Really? Yeah.
It's how do I show up at work? How do I show up at home? Et cetera, et cetera. But I think it's a good conversation to have, isn't it? Because this goes to the very heart of what we do. Because trust might mean something slightly different. So if we just have trust is one of our values, it's really hard to nail it down. And what Murph and Emil and our facilitators are really good at is identifying what does trust look like. And I love it when you say, Murph, in our workshops, who's the most trusting person? What does it look like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to go to someone that you trust, why are you going? What are they going to do? Oh, well, they deliver on their word. They won't lie to me.
Yeah.
You know, they do what they say they're going to do.
It's always the same. They do what they say they're going to do. They deliver on their word. They say it like it is.
Exactly.
They're the people you trust, and regardless of whether the message is positive or not so positive, they will still tell you honestly what they really think. And that is a quality that you probably don't get from many of your friends, to be frank. Like, it's really hard.
Well, it is in tough times that you do realise who, things like at the moment, who's going to stand behind you, I
also think trust sort of sits over the top of when as a group you've defined what behaviours and how you want to work together as a group. Trust gets built stronger and stronger when you actually see people exhibit those behaviours and you can give feedback 100%. Around those behaviours. So trust is almost the end point, isn't it? There's a whole bunch of things.
We would say trust is built by the behaviours that you exhibit, and then we build trust, which is really important.
Consistency of them so they become habits.
That's right. And I mean, that's what we're working pretty hard on at the moment, is to improve that consistency or be open about where we've been inconsistent around our behaviours and actually just have that conversation and talk about it, coming back to that original point in a way that we actually care about the other person and express how they can improve or how we can work together better.
And I think you touched on before the current situation of COVID and relationships.
Yeah.
I mean, how have you dealt with that? Because that's probably the question we most get asked, and through this period we haven't had any face-to-face.
Wow.
But a lot of, Murph, what you've been doing is advising our clients how to continue to build those relationships through this tough time.
I might start, but I'll throw to you later. But I guess so for us in our business, and Pete as the current CEO was fantastic in this. So on the 16th of March, lots of the businesses that we part own and Pete operates closed. 500 people get stood down. The 17th of March, we were trialling work from home. 17th of March, we had a confirmed case of coronavirus. One of our staff, we're all at home. So big decisions. Next big decision, all the directors took pay cuts, and staff went to part-time. We made all those things happen within 3 days. We made decisions quickly, and Pete, we all were aligned in the decision-making process, made it to protect the business and protect each other. We wanted to protect our business and the jobs and the people within our organisation and our clients. And then we did lots of things for our clients. We've got a lot of hospitality and retail clients. So we spent a lot of time giving free advice in both accounting and law to help them through this period where their venues are closing, they've got no revenue, and so they're not going to pay us. And to help them out. Now, fortunately, there was JobKeeper, and so that helped a lot of the businesses, and so things changed. But we'd made decisions a long way before all of the other law firms, accounting firms, other businesses. We made decisions quickly.
I sort of smile because when having been in the business for not quite 2 years at that point, there were a lot of people that had been here longer. What I was amazed about, it was almost like an unsaid pact. The minute we decided we were going to do something, everybody united and actually decided that this is what we were going to do, which was pretty dramatic and pretty quick. It was actually hard on a lot of our people. A lot of our people were still coming to grips, they're turning up to work thinking everything is going along quite normal. Yes, there's a bit of COVID going on in the environment, but they turned up to work on Monday. By Tuesday, they were working from home. We moved that quick. So I think we acted really quickly. We were quite united. That was because of the relationships that we'd formed. There was nobody sort of sitting around the table going, "Oh, I don't think we should do that," and no arguments. It was actually just what we did.
The symbolism of the directors taking pay cuts, fantastic. Because again, we always talk about role model leadership and leading by example. Was there any sort of pushback on that, or was it just like, no, this is what we have to do for our people?
We've got, like all businesses, we've got businesses that are performing financially very well, and we've got parts of the businesses that have had tougher times. And so it's obviously easier in a part of the business that's isn't performing as well financially to say, oh yeah, well I'll take a cut because your revenue, we modelled our revenue dropping by 20%, our revenue drops by 40%. What does that look like on our cost structures? Yep. And so then we went, okay, we need to make some hard decisions. In other parts of business, like Trevor's business is performing exceptionally well. So his directors have said, well, we've had a great year and now we're going to take a 20% pay cut with no questions asked. And they all just...
it's one in all in, but our people did the same.
Yeah, and the people. Well. So the people as well. Like we didn't have, there was a few people that said, oh, but hang on, the other accounting firms haven't done that and the other law firms haven't done that. Why do we need to do that? So because we think it's a good thing for the business.
We turned out to be ahead of the curve.
Oh, totally. They're all doing it now, but they're not talking to their staff about it. Yep. We're very transparent.
100%.
In all aspects of our business, which is very unusual in professional services. So we keep our staff in line. We had, we brought probably the other things we did was the regular meetings and it's all by Zoom, but having lots of meetings and lots of really good communication. Pete's great at it. Trev's great at it in his team. Everyone jumped on board with that consistent, clear communication with the team.
I think when you get into a bind or a tight spot, what everybody wants to see is you make a decision and unite, and then act. And then what we did really well, I reckon, is we narrowed the focus down to short-term measurable goals. We didn't look too far ahead. We just went right back to the basics and we started to increase the communication exponentially, probably to the point where the guys were probably a bit sick of hearing from us on an email. We're going to wind it back now. Or a Zoom. And now it's getting a little bit, probably towards its use by date.
It was interesting on that, Trevor, though, wasn't it? Because we were on a call yesterday, and it was funny, when I first started at Sydney, and I remember Cole Sears, our CEO, and Andrew Allen, they walked down, they said, oh, here's 5-year plan, Ruse, you can have a look at it. And I'm a footballer going, mate, 5-year plan, I just want to
next
week. But I sort of understood, at that stage, the philosophy around it. So I sat down, looked at the 5-year plan, that looks all right, that's right, pass. So we were talking to someone else yesterday that sort of said now their focus is so much more narrower on the process. Rather than saying we're going to be here in 6 months or 12 months. Do you think that'll be a little bit of a change in the corporate world to say people are less likely to look? I mean, you've got to have a view there, but
we're very much
we talk a lot about the process.
Basic,
what can you do in the here and the now? How can we? Because
there's always a balance. There's definitely a balance because we're changing leadership at the moment, and so Pete's the founder. He's been in charge for 12 years, and so Trevor and I are taking different roles. We are looking, and Pete's always done. You need to look a long way ahead and say, well, we want to get to there. What do we need to do now? But you're right. It is the process. How do we get there?
I definitely think there's a lot more process focused.
I mean, you guys are probably lucky because you're ahead of the curve, as you said. So you're probably more process focused. But I'm fascinated to see a lot of companies we deal with. They sort of talk about it, but they become really outcome focused.
We changed the goalpost a little bit so actually everybody could feel successful. So it's a stressful time for our folks. It's a stressful time for our clients. One of the things we immediately stepped up and said, what can everybody do? Call a client. So we actually started to measure the number of points of client contact. And then you start to go, actually, we're doing okay. We're hitting that number. In the end, everything will be all right. So I guess it's a lot like a football mentality. And you measure the stats along the way.
But it was the community part as well. Like, how can we support our BlueRock community and how can we support our client community? And we looked at it like that, running free webinars, lots of support for people because you feel good helping.
Helping people. Yeah, absolutely.
And from a personal perspective, Bruce, what have you learnt through it, the COVID period, about your leadership? Is there anything you would have done differently or better?
I think personally, there's lots of things. The family part of personal. So I think like lots of people, you're locked up with your family. I've got 4 teenage kids, and so you're locked up in a house with your family. And I think there's a lot of the mental health aspects that we've dealt with, both in a business sense and a personal sense. But I think what I've learnt is you need to have your own. You need to look after yourself to a degree that you're no good to anyone if your own physical and mental health is not spot on. So firstly, make sure that I'm feeling energised and positive and then reflect that out. Because if I'm looking stressed and anxious, the team's, it's going to be a disaster for my teenage kids and a disaster for my 25 to 35-year-old team. So get your mental and physical health, then look at your team, and then say, okay, how can I help them? And then more broadly, how can I help the client? So I guess I started with the me, the us, and the them sort of mentality on it.
How about yourself, mate?
I think in an ideal world, we could have prepared our people just a little bit better. It was quick, and so I've learnt to see the actual psychological impact of a change. And I've heard through our sessions talk about that the brain doesn't know any difference between psychological pain and physical pain, and that was, a shock to the system for the guys, and that we could have moved just a little. We did lots of communication, but we could have moved a little bit earlier to provide them with some support. But they've absolutely, stuck at it and stood up, which was great.
And at a personal level, have you been difficult, or have you just cruised through?
I think I did because of the intensity, a really nice eight or so weeks, and then around about the 8th or 9th week, I fell into a little bit of a hole, which is a story that we.
And what's that look like?
Talked about it. And about week 8, I found myself really struggling, and literally had a moment where I woke up one morning and put the runners on. Never run much more than 6 or 7 Ks in my life, Roosie, and after about 2 hours 15, I got to 20 Ks and sort of burnt myself out.
Then you had to come home.
Then I did that. Then I had to come home. But through that process, I worked out that I'd actually stopped doing all the routine things, the structural things along the way during the day that would set me up, and I had to go back to that to get back on board and get back on track.
So I just want to come back to the moment you woke up and when you reflected on it, what had you stopped doing, or what had happened? What had been the transition? Because I think this is really interesting from a leadership perspective, because I suspect there's a lot of people who've been through something similar, or might even still be going through something similar.
I stopped doing the basics, the simple things. I had a routine, as boring as it sounds. I would get up, have a cup of coffee, pick my phone up. This will sound a bit nerdy. Look at photos, Google Photos, text a photo of my kids, back to the kids, have a bit of a banter, get in the train, come to work, listen to my audio book, and be really zoned in and zen and ready to go. I'd lost that whole first part of the day. I'd found myself sort of getting out of bed late, no exercise, jumping straight into the computer, and all of a sudden, this had gone on for 8 or 9 weeks, and I've gone, actually, hang on. I hadn't worked out in my head that something was wrong, what it was, but I needed to get back to that routine.
And I think it's an incredibly important point, because leaders are probably at times worried too much about their team. I think what you touched on is one of the keys to leadership. Look after yourself. Because what your staff want you to turn up the best version of you. They want you to have the run. They want you to meditate for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or go for your bike ride, or walk the dog. They're demanding that of you. Because if you don't do that, you don't turn up at the best version of you.
You're probably letting the team down a bit.
You're letting the team down. It's a great point.
I think that's one of the things that I learned as a 35-year-old partner in a law firm leader, that I was just not looking after myself at all. I was just going hard, working long hours, not looking after yourself. And so that feedback, we had you in, but not as often back then. And a couple of staff did say to me, you just look, we don't want to be like that. We don't want to be working that hard, and you look ragged. You're not looking after yourself, and
it's
so
not a great role model.
It's
is
back,
it?
no, but it's like, well, and am I being the best role model for my kids? Am I being the best role model for my staff? And probably not. And so there's a lot of self-reflection. It's, the bike ride image. I spent a bit of time getting fit, and because you need to make sure that you are. It's just exactly preparing for a marathon or preparing to play footy. You've got to roll up on the day, and we're corporate athletes to some degree, so you need to look after yourself. But your mental health and your physical health are key. So, but it's back to your consistency point earlier, because when you're very inconsistent if you're not. You're not your best. So is which Trevor's rolling up today? Is it the Trevor that's grumpy because he didn't have his run, or is it? No, but you are consistent.
But people are looking at leaders all the time.
Yeah.
Let's be perfectly frank, and we touch on a lot, is they're watching you the whole time. And are you giving energy to the room, or are you sucking it out of the room?
Yeah.
Well, here comes Trevor. He's had a bad day, and they're just scattering from the kitchen instead of, oh, geez, Trevor's in here today. So you've got to be really mindful of how you turn up as a leader.
Yeah. And look, I didn't necessarily think that I was giving that off, but our theme, one of our behaviour themes for the month was speak up or ask for help. So I'd front up to my team and say, you know what, guys, I reckon I've been a bit off. And they said, yeah, we think you have. And I went, right.
Yep.
I think I'm hiding that.
Yeah. Nah.
Did you ask them why they hadn't told you?
No, I didn't. No.
Because that's an interesting question. Because again, one of the things that we need as leaders is for people to actually come and say, hey, mate, you need to take some time out and look after yourself. Again, when you're working with CEOs and head coaches, like, people just often don't get feedback. Yeah. And it can be quite lonely.
Yeah, no,
being
it is.
At the top, and it's...
Yeah, we talk about leaning on each other all the time and leaning on a network, et cetera, but I also think, to pick it up on another point, we talk about vulnerability.
Yeah.
And leaders being vulnerable, and leaders saying, I need help. I don't have all the answers. We've had at least 2 or 3, probably 3 that we've spoken to in the last week, Murph, haven't we? That what's the hardest time you've had? And 2 of them in particular said they cried through a Zoom call where they had to give feedback. They had to let people... I mean, that's vulnerability.
It's a very traumatic time.
But it's showing vulnerability. Yeah. It's not that old stoic... boss sitting up there going, well, you're fired, or you're. It's now that about, well, I'm connecting with you, and I'm really feeling for you.
Yeah. Oh, totally. It's obviously in footy, vulnerability is more of an, it's more accepted now than it was. It's never accepted, and the same in the corporate world.
Yeah.
You always had to be, tough and strong, and you could not do that. And so, I think in my career, probably the hardest things I've ever had to do is let people go. Like it's, I had to let people go at a period last year, and I was in tears as well. It was a really tough time because, not in the meeting, but afterwards, it's like, this is really hard that I've made a change. Now, hopefully they can, you're doing it in a dignified way and respectful way, and then they can go on and make another path. But, it is tough.
Yeah, it's tough.
I think, we've spent a few times talking about the challenges. There's a lot of good stuff came out. What we learned over the past 2 to 12 weeks is we've actually seen our young leaders stand up, take on opportunities that they've never had to face before, take on situations that they've never had to deal with. And you know what? They've actually
What are some of the things you've seen? Because it's a great point. It's going to be the next question about identifying young leaders. What are some of the behaviours that you've been able to see through that period that have been really important?
Oh, I think just the confidence to take risk, to take on something new, the ability to, work together collectively in a tough environment. And I guess what I've seen them is look after others. Yeah. I've seen a lot of trust, care and respect and looking after others. So that's been the sign of a lot of our younger leaders of actually taking a lot of other people under their wing. There's 150 people in this building. We get to see each other a lot, but when we're all dispersed, you actually have to break down into little clusters, and it takes one guy's been here a few years to look after a couple of people who haven't been here that long. You can't look after everybody as the leader. You need everybody to help out along the way.
I think that's, so in your future leaders, you need that genuine care for other people, but they need to have confidence.
Yep.
But they need an intrinsic motivation as well. Yeah. And so it's interesting because, the COVID-19 period, there's people they don't have that motivation, and so they need the energy, and it's easy to fall back into just wait, to be passive. And so the people that have stood up have been the ones that...
Well, I think that's reflected our culture. I call it we've joked about this. And I said to you before we got on, it was the sort of the Lieutenant Dan moment, in Forrest Gump, when Lieutenant Dan was on the prawn trawler in the middle of the cyclone, and all the other prawn trawlers were getting blown over, and he's on the top of the mast going, blow your bugger, blow, bring it on. Our managing director of private wealth, Adam Morse, sent a snippet of that YouTube video around. It was the 28th of March. It was a Friday night. I remember reading it after Pete sent out one of his emails, and I looked at it and I'd go, actually, that's when I know we're going to be all right, because we're not running away from this. That moment was actually, we're running right at it. And that's what we've done as a group.
It's a great test of your culture, though, isn't it? Because when everyone's in this building, they're going to give or take work within 5 10% of each other.
Yeah.
It's like the off-season Murph at the footy club. Yeah, because when players are at a footy club from that November through to September period, they're all training pretty similar.
Yeah.
It's what happens in that 8-10 week period.
Yeah.
You would have found an enormous amount about your staff during the last 8 weeks.
Oh, that they are truly amazing,
Yeah.
and they've done a great job,
Yeah.
and that we've got a really even better future as a result of. We had a bright future. We've got an even better future because of what they've learned and what they've done, what we've seen they can do
And I
these
think
past 10 weeks.
That's right, and it's when what you do when no one's watching,
Yeah.
isn't it? I know
Yeah.
you've talked about that. But like,
Yeah.
you know, this in footy world, they've had 8. They've all not been able to train together.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
it'll be next week. We'll see who trained and who didn't, because who came back prepared.
And I said this to one of the assistant coaches of a club the other day. There'll be a lot of players will have the black text to put through them in the next week or so. Because if you can't motivate yourself when the game has been taken away from you, for the first time in 130 years, the game has been, so the thing that you love has been taken away from you. If you turn up unfit in this period, you just don't want to play AFL football. And it's a bit the same.
Very similar.
In workplace as well.
Oh, totally. And the thing, little things in the pre-COVID, but when in the office is like, who's going to be there's something on the floor there. Who's going to pick it up? Like Pete will pick it up. He's the founder, and he'll do it. He'll clean it up, and everyone through the organisation will do that.
Yep.
No one's looking. It's just who It's a bit about respect, and it's a bit about love of the collective and the team, because you don't want that bit of paper there because someone it doesn't look good. So that's a culture that we've got.
So just to finish off, the time's flown.
I know.
Clearly been a really good host.
Yeah.
So
one that stood up in the last minute when his teammate
I think Rizzy
thrown under a bus.
might be out of a job.
Might be back to the VFL.
Do you want to give him some feedback?
Back to the VFL. We always give him
I'm
feedback.
nervous about what's going to happen after this when the lights go
So just to
off.
finish off, the final question from me
Okay. You go first, Bruce. No, sorry, mate.
is, what advice would you give to a young Bruce McFarlane or Trevor Gordijn?
I think I touched on it earlier. It's around looking after yourself and being. It's how you turn up every day, and so I think but from that, it's not being less impatient. I was in a hurry to get to the next milestone all the time. I wanted to be a senior associate. I wanted to be a partner as quick as possible, and I didn't enjoy the journey at all. So I think that was, to spend some time to relax, to reflect.
Yeah. For me, it would be work hard, be humble, and probably the last one is if you can just think about giving more than you take in this life, because that's the paradox. The more you give, the more you get back. And if you can actually get yourself to a mindset of giving, then more than you take in your relationships or life, then things will work out just fine.
Well, let's turn to sport, because I know you're both footy fans. So let's spend the last 10 minutes, because we've probably got some. Let's spend the last 10 minutes on
Talk
sport.
about an AFL premiership coach and write on your CV you're a wannabe footballer.
Yeah. What have you learnt through watching the Pies, like from a culture and performance point of view?
I'm a supporter, but I'm a long way away. I think over the past 12 or 18 months, I feel like the club's changed its style or leadership style from one of almost tell to one of built around gratitude and empathy and togetherness. And I think they've changed the brand of who they are as a club. They're simply much more of a caring, together club, and they play a bit more for each other. But again, that's from a guy who's in the stands.
But I think it's important, because we talk about culture
television.
travelling. I talk about it all the time. Culture travels.
Yeah.
And your culture will travel to your clients or whatever. But it's a really good point, because I think it's often perception is reality.
Yeah.
And what you see is often what's happening internally, Murph, isn't it? So it's a really, that's probably why I was trying to get to it, not to have a footy discussion, but we've all missed footy. But it's more, what is your perception of your footy team? Because I think one of the proudest things, and I'm sure with you, with Geelong, Murph, one of the proud things for me when I was coaching both Sydney and Melbourne is often when I get an email from a school teacher or a principal or a supporter that said, I ran into Adam Goods at the shopping centre and what a nice person he was, or I just ran into Max Gawn or whatever. Culture travels.
Yeah, and I just get this sense that there's, a lot more around gratitude and empathy and togetherness as a club, and that makes it, as a supporter, that makes it really, for me, really easy to relate to.
Yep.
And it's part of us, not them and us.
And Bruce, you've been through a really successful period in Geelong. So, as a supporter, without blowing smoke up old mates over here, when did you sort of sense they were onto something in Geelong? When did you sort of start to go, wow, I think we've got something here?
Fortunately, known this fella for a little while, so I got to see some of what they were doing through people like Tom Harley. And see, Tom Harley, to me, if you're looking at leaders, I would really admire him, the way he leads. He's, I got to meet him socially a couple of times, and the way he is with the fan in the outer compared to the way he presents. We had a boardroom lunch with Tom. In the corporate sense.
Yep.
And this is in 2008. He was amazing, and I think some of the qualities that he's, again from afar, but in leadership. So he listened. I think that's really important. Made a decision. The well-documented Steve Johnson made a decision, prepared to actually stand behind a decision that he made. That probably wouldn't have been popular with the fans, with Steve Johnson and with others. So I think looking at the way he went about leadership, I took a lot from that in my own style of leadership, and that's the listening side, making a decision, sticking to the decision, and running with it.
And what about as a Geelong fan? Trevor, you touched on from Collingwood. What does culturally Geelong mean to you?
I think there's been lots of great things they did, and as like Trevor said, I know that the Geelong, they have a really sense of community. We spent a bit of time down in that area, and their impact on the community generally is fantastic. The players themselves have roles in community organisations, so I think that's fantastic. But I think they're the way that they've supported each other in their very successful period and right through. I've also had the fortunate to meet Joel a few times through Murph as well, and again, an amazing leader in the way he goes about it. He's the one that you want to stand behind and go into battle with, because that he's going to be consistent, he's going to be reliable. You know what you get from Joel. From the day he started in 2007, you know exactly what you're going to get. That's trust, isn't it? Like 100%. He's built all the players, everyone trusts that Joel Selwood, and so I think there's that. I also think that's great, to look at people like him and think about those things in a corporate sense as well.
Just to change tack a little bit, BlueRock have got an amazing office. So when you walk into the place, what is the impact of the environment, the physical environment, on culture, do you think?
I think it's very deliberate, that the website as well. We don't want to be like every other firm. We do things differently. The way we approach culture, the way we approach brand, all of those things. So, we like it to be a little bit a sense of fun, but that it's. So I think people a little bit more relaxed than in an office in Collins Street or Burke Street.
I think the colour and the uniqueness of it gives everybody energy. And I'll always remember coming up here for second interview and sitting in the foyer downstairs and listening, and I'm going, it's actually got a hum to it, this place. It's humming. There are happy people here. They're walking around. I could hear the energy. I could see the energy in the physical environment, and then I actually started to feel it myself. So, the work that Pete and Kate and Dino and the whole team that have done here to kind of create this space for it's actually very important for us in terms of the way we feel, which in a sense, when you take it away and you send everybody home for work, it's a double whammy. It's not like we're just sitting at a grey old crappy desk with a computer. We're actually we're walking away from a place where we were with people we loved and cared about. Well, and we still do, but you were working with your mates. Coming back to what you said, do things you love with people you care about. Great things happen, and so that was really hard for our folks in the first few weeks. It still is,
because it's fascinating, because sport does it like sporting organisations, sporting arenas or sporting facilities are custom built for the club, and generally they've got history but so often you walk into offices, particularly older ones, and they're literally, you could be walking into anywhere, can't you? And so I think this organisation's done an amazing job to recreate that, and as are some of the modern forward-thinking orgs like Google and Apple, and so they're all customising their office space. I think there's a fair bit in that.
What did you think, Reezy, when you walked in? Sort of
standing
in the foyer
it's
in
the
a
first time I
horse.
come in here, and I must admit I walked in here, and it does give you this mysterious, like, gee, wow, this is interesting. So the first impression is you've got to keep looking around. You've got to keep engaging. You keep looking around. Your second impression is this looks a pretty cool place to work. I think what I want to find from what we're saying, because I was going to ask the question about the environment, one of the first things I did when I walked into Melbourne was rip everything down.
Okay.
Because it didn't mean anything.
Yeah.
And that's the balance between getting a really good environment. What I'm hearing from you guys today is it's here. It's not just about that. It's not just about the thing you read out about fun. It's not just about the behaviours. No. It's not just about, it's everything together.
Yep.
And that's when it becomes pretty cool. Yep. So we ripped it all down and then put it back up again.
Yeah, okay.
But we put things back up that meant something.
Yep.
And that's what I found. There was a period in footy clubs, I reckon, Murph, and you might have just arrived maybe just after. There was a period in footy clubs, everyone had stuff on the walls, but it just didn't mean stuff.
Yeah.
But the thing that I sense in here, it actually has a meaning.
It does.
And you believe in it. That's the difference when you put stuff off. That's what I believe.
Yeah.
Well, I think it tells us that we are different.
Yeah.
We're a little bit unique. If you go around the corner, you will see something that you didn't see around the corner before. You want to find that out. You'll see a friend. You'll get to talk to somebody you know. You'll get to be with a work colleague. You're coming to work with your mates. And
but if Bruce's first word to me is we're serious, then I look around going, hang on, how can you be serious? Do you know what I'm saying? So it has to marry with something. There has to be a connection there. So when you say fun in the first part of our meeting, that immediately resonates with me. This is fun. This place is fun.
Yeah.
And then it's the balance about getting everything right. But it has to mean something.
Yeah, I think, make no mistake, we despite the appearance as well, we're bloody good at what we do.
Absolutely.
So you can hear that little bit of defensiveness come out.
But it's all...
Don't just assume it's
No, but I'm saying I think the combination of everything works.
Getting that right.
It's getting it right.
I think the entrepreneurial spirit is something that we like. Is that and hopefully that's reflected in the brand and the premises and all of that. So that we're prepared to give things a go and do things a little bit differently. So and the office is important. Obviously, being a multidisciplinary firm, you like to connect the different parts, and it's a lot easier. So we've had to learn different skills when we're all remote. So,
but I also think it too, and Murph and I talk about it, is it's everywhere. It's top down. It can't be just putting a coach in or putting a CEO in or putting something up on a wall or having a slogan. It's hard work being great. I mean, you pay a price for being great, because you've got to get so many things right, and you guys do an amazing job doing it. I mean, Murph, you pick up on that point.
Well, I was going to say the price of victory is eternal vigilance.
Yeah.
So you just have to stick at it. You just got to stick at it.
I was reflecting, my wife asked me, well, what's going on? What's going on at BlueRock? Why are you always moving forward? I said, I actually think because the place is uncomfortable being comfortable. It's coming back to that vigilance part. There's the minute you sort of realise you're a little bit comfortable here, and you see that in our founder Pete, when things are a little bit comfortable, he's going, no, we've got to change, we've got to move,
Shake it up.
We've got to move, we've got to get better. And I think that vigilance is built into the culture.
And I guess one of the things, again, that a theme in the business is growth creates opportunity. So we really want to keep growing as people and as a business to create opportunities for our people and our community. So you need to keep doing things a little bit differently.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, Murph, I'm taking over because you've been average.
We're going to wrap up.
Are you going to wrap it up?
No, I was going to hand back to you.
Don't get
Paul, would you like to...
I knew some people just can't give them a little bit of a leg up and ego. You know what it's like?
Yeah.
Listen, that was a fantastic conversation. Just some great messages. But again, we talk about walking the walk, just not talking the talk. There's a lot of people that can talk the talk, But I think through understanding what you guys do from Murph and the work that we're doing with you, sitting down with you today, having a conversation, that's why you're such a great company. So thanks very much for Trevor and Bruce and my co-host, my host today, Jared Murphy.
Thank you.
Next time, we'll see you again on the Culture Couch.